Thanks, everybody, and welcome back to another Small Business Chronicles episode. And I, again, am filling in for Ryan. I am your guest host, Brian Stone, serial entrepreneur and podcast host in my part-time. And I'm super excited to talk with Josh Cunningham for a couple of reasons. One, because we have some similarities in terms of other businesses and the spaces that he works in. And two, because he's passionate about culture. And so I'm excited to have the conversation, but I want to kick it to you first, Josh. Why don't you tell our listeners why they should be so interested in listening to you today?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast today. We do have a lot in common, both in the real estate space, and we both use the same microphone as well, right? So that's
absolutely
cut from the same cloth, right? My name is Josh Cunningham, and like you said, I'm the founder and CEO of a company named RokrBox, based out of College Station, Texas. And my entrepreneurial journey started about 10 years ago. I was in the real estate space working for a marketing firm and traveling the country, going to all these different real estate seminars and conferences and events and masterminds, and really just kind of opened my eyes to not only what were the paths to success in real estate, but more importantly, after rubbing elbows with a lot of the top producing agents and teams, learning about what kept them up at night. What were those pain points? What were those voids in their business? And about a decade ago, there was a huge gaping hole in the industry where agents were generating an abundance of online leads, and their agents were doing a terrible job of following up with them. And so I thought to myself, well, if someone can figure out how to solve that problem, they've got a pretty good business idea. So I set out on a journey to solve that problem once and for all for the real estate industry. And along my path, what I did was work with some clients, found some failures, some successes, and really created a scalable and duplicatable model where we would essentially hire students from Texas A&M University. That's where I'm at in College Station, to do this lead follow-up work for all these real estate professionals. And, over the last 10 years, we've actually hired and trained over 400 inside sales assistants. And we've managed over 3 million internet leads and generated millions of dollars in commissions for our clients all across the country and Canada as well. And along that path, every good entrepreneur always should be able to, help solve a problem. That's how you can create, income and revenue and exchange value in this world, is find a problem, figure out how to solve it. But along the path, we had to look for and find and seek out that deeper meaning behind our business. What was the why behind our business? And we very quickly realized that our why, our purpose in this world, was to help move people forward. And not only did we help move people forward through the sales pipeline, taking these cold leads and calling them and texting them and emailing them and moving them forward as a motivated buyer or seller to connect with our clients, but the impact that work made on the people that we worked with, the team owners, the agents, our clients. It allowed them to really spend their time focused on high income producing activities and accelerated the growth of their businesses. And then when we looked internally to our own team, again, we're hiring students from Texas A&M University to do this work. And so as you can imagine, these students are showing up to work, smiling and dialing every day, learning how to manage a CRM, learning sales scripts, learning objection handlers, learning how to be a part of a team and starting to step into their first leadership positions in their young professional career. And so that work gave them the experiences and the resume building opportunities to set them apart from their peers when they graduated. So most of our students walk the stage with multiple job offers. And so again, we just so happen to follow up with internet leads, but our purpose is to move people forward. And we do that many different ways. And so a few years ago, I was actually speaking at an event, and my traditional talk was, here's how to convert online leads. And the host of the event actually asked me to fill a second spot, said, hey, why don't you talk about your culture? You're doing the work that nobody else wants to do. You're hiring a generation of talent that doesn't stereotypically have a great reputation for being hard workers. How do you do this? How do you get these people to stick around and work for you for several years? And so the core of that was our company culture. So being a purpose-driven organization, living by our core values each and every day. And so I started to share some of that insight with the world. And that's kind of created a new brand. That's my new passion project. And that is called 5-Star Company Culture, where we actually work with small business owners, entrepreneurs, business leaders, and help them make their core values come to life and help them unlock more profits and freedom in their life and their business.
That's incredible. And first of all, I appreciate everything you do in the real estate space because I know how hard that is. I don't think, and I know we have some listeners that are in the real estate space for their businesses, but those that aren't, I don't think everybody realizes how difficult it is to have an ISA role and show up and smile and dial every day. Like that. It's incredible, first of all, what you've built in that space. And it's incredible that you've done it through having a thriving culture, so, and I know that you do other stuff too, in regards to that. And that's, you do like workshops, mastermind workshops, right? For other business leaders that are wanting to, have that approach to their own culture. I mean, what are the problems that you're helping solve, in the business space?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, one of the things you said there was mastermind. And, that reminds me of really kind of how I came upon that tool in our business. And, a long time ago in the early days, we were hiring our first batch of, employees. We're bringing them on board. We're, like you said, smiling and dialing, bringing in really top quality talent. And our team was just really doing a great job of identifying these hot opportunities and passing them off to our clients. The problem was, though, anytime you have more than one person trying to achieve the same exact goal, you're probably going to find a couple different ways of doing it. And so, we began to notice that all of our individual employees started to create their own unique habits, their own approach, from the way that they scripted their conversations, from how they recorded their notes inside of the CRM, how they were overcoming objections, et cetera, et cetera. You name it, whatever step in the process or variable, it was being done several different ways. And, because of that, we now had a room full of people that were just, giving each other conflicting information and sharing ambiguous best practices. And so that created a glaring lack of clarity for everyone on the team, which is not good for predictability and scalability. I'm sure many of you have, been in that position as well before, where you've got a bunch of different people doing things a bunch of different ways. And so, I thought long and hard about how I was going to sort of fix this in the business. And it made me reflect on one of the great business classics. How many of you have ever heard of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, for those of you who don't know Napoleon Hill, he studied about approximately 500 of the most successful, wealthy people in the world at the time. And he was searching for those common habits that they shared. And the book explains the 13, common characteristics of these highly successful people. But the one that really stood out to me was the mastermind concept. And, I thought to myself, if the mastermind concept was good enough, for the most successful people in business history, then why not apply that principle to my own business as well? Now, I'd had experience traveling the country and going to real estate masterminds where, you have a bunch of different agents from non-competing markets that will get together and share ideas on what's working well with them. But, I decided, what if I applied this strategy to my own business, right? And so immediately we started implementing some monthly masterminds. We've done this every single month since the beginning of time. And we essentially invite all of our team members out and ask them, what are we doing well and what do we need to improve on? And we very quickly began to start developing those systems, those processes, those best practices, standard operating procedures, SOPs, that we still use in our business 10 years later. And, the effort that these masterminds, it wasn't much effort, but it was a huge payoff, a huge result. And it created a huge sense of ownership for everybody in the organization. And my team, I was able to empower them because they had a stake in the decisions that we were making. And that creates a lot of pride within the organization. And as a business leader, that lifts a lot of the weight off your shoulders. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, it gets really lonely at the top. You always got to be the one that comes up with the idea or makes the right decision. Well, my advice to you is utilize something like a mastermind, whether it's internal or external, where you can collaborate with like-minded individuals and take advantage of the unique differences in each of our perspectives, our experiences, our professional backgrounds to brainstorm and move the group to new heights. And so, again, it's something that I was introduced to a long time ago. It's not anything I invented. It's been around for 100 plus years, and, Think and Grow Rich. In fact, if you think about it, it's been around much longer than that. The oldest mastermind in American history was what? Declaration of Independence, right?
Yeah.
It's a group of like-minded individuals coming together and agreeing on a common purpose and saying, we're going to achieve this together, and we're going to hold each other accountable, and we're going to challenge each other and rise to the occasion. And so, I've done it externally, I've done it internally, and then now through our new brand, 5-Star Company Culture, we've been hosting masterminds with entrepreneurs from all different business backgrounds, all different industries, and coming together and realizing what we share that's in common, and then what our unique perspectives are that we can help each other grow and accelerate the growth of our businesses. So it's just something that it just gets me super excited and charged up to be in a mastermind, to facilitate a mastermind, and then to see the sense of ownership that our team takes on when they create an idea, they put it into existence through their voice and their decisions and their actions, and they get to see that they get to really become a part of some change and some movement and some progress in life. And so, that's one of our favorite things that we do. We still do them at RokrBox every single month, and then 5-Star Company Culture, we've got a group of business owners that we meet about once a quarter, and we get together and talk about ways to move our businesses forward.
That's amazing. And I love that you talk about ownership, right? Because I talk about this in my coaching business. When I'm working with a client that is having difficulties building a culture within the team that they have, and something I say often is authorship is ownership, right? And I think that there's a real desire for people to have that kind of input. I think that people want to do good work, and I can relate to seeing all of these different practices happening. They're different. They're recording it differently in the CRM, or they're handling objections differently. I think that comes from a really good and meaningful place, and it's a desire to create something that is creating success for them and the company. It just gets skewed when you don't give them the outlet to do that, in a focused way that's actually directing it towards the vision of wherever the company needs to go. So I love that. And I love that you talked about the generation that a lot of people would consider not super hireable, right? Because there's so many assumptions out there in the workspace about what makes a good employee for this, or, what makes a good employee for that, or, what does a salesperson look like, right? Or what do they sound like, or what's their background? And my initials aside, it's all BS, right? I mean, because there's great people in all walks of life that just need the opportunity to have the right systems and SOPs, right, to do a job well. So awesome, man. I love that. Well, where are you seeing the most traction in terms of that mastermind session? I mean, are these longer sessions? Are they like hyper focused? I mean, I know there's a lot of different ways to approach that.
So we have a really simple format for it. We essentially close down our office an hour early once a month, and it's not a required event. So there's a lot of reasons for that. First of all, I don't necessarily want to pay for everybody to show up, for another meeting. But second of all, you're going to see who's actually committed to the organization and who's invested in change and progress and internal growth as well, right? They want to move up within the organization. We always promote from within, so we've got several different levels of leadership that people can step into. And so a lot of times when we're having those conversations about who's next to step up in the organization, it definitely comes into play as to, are they coming to the masterminds or not? Now, I do bribe them with free food. I will admit that. It doesn't matter anybody's income level. The power of free food will definitely bring in a crowd. But we'll normally bribe them with some free food. We bring them out and invite everybody to come out, whether they've been with the organization for 5 or 6 or 7 years, or even 5 or 6 days. We've literally had people who have had their new employee orientation on Monday and they came to attend a mastermind on Tuesday, just so that they can start to become part of the culture and get to see this rich environment that their voice matters and their opinions count, despite whatever contributions they can give us after just going through an employee orientation. But they show up. And we very quickly do just sort of a recap of what a mastermind is, because there's a lot of times people have never been to a mastermind before. So we kind of explain to them, hey, this isn't a meeting, right? Most organizations operate where the decisions are made at the top and everything rolls downhill. But this is quite the opposite. It's really the inverse of that. This is an idea challenge where we want the input to come from everybody in the organization and rise up to the top. And so I have a little excerpt from Think and Grow Rich that I read to the attendees. And then we open up by allowing everybody an opportunity to recognize each other for living by the core values. So I talk about core values a lot, and it's not just some, cute little artwork that's up on the wall. It's not just something that's in the new employee pamphlet, or quiz, but it's something that we live by each and every day. These 5 core values help guide us through the decisions that we make through, hiring, retaining, training people, our relationships with our customers, the responsibilities and obligations that I have as a business owner. These are the guiding forces behind all the decisions that we make. And so, it's one thing to say you have core values, but it's another thing for them to actually be a part of the life within the organization. So the mastermind kicks off with, again, an open opportunity for peer recognition, for someone to recognize someone for living by those core values. And that sort of goes on for several minutes. And then at that point, everybody has an opportunity to stand up one at a time. So either go clockwise or counterclockwise. It doesn't really matter. And everyone stands up and shares 2 things. Number one, what are we doing really well right now? Right? What is the thing that's been most impressive that we've achieved, or maybe improved, or maybe even something personally that someone's reflecting upon. So what is it that we're doing really well? And then number 2, what do we suck at? What's gone wrong? What hiccups or hurdles or frustrations or conflicts have we seen within our business that if we can sort of solve that problem, it's going to help us achieve more in our business. So we write down all the positives, we write down all the negatives, and then once we've gone around the entire room, we then give everybody an opportunity to recognize the strengths. And then we start going down the opportunities, and one by one, we'll go through and say, okay, this point, let's elaborate on that. Who wants to share on that? Who else has some feedback on this point right here? And then as people begin to kind of elaborate and collaborate, we start to come up with some ideas. Hey, this is a problem in our business. How can we solve this permanently? Or how can we incentivize people to not take this action? Or what policy do we need to put in place so that everybody knows the one way to do this versus the 17 different ways to do it? And we go through and we tackle all the opportunities. And the other brilliant thing is you'll see a lot of those opportunities will be repeated. So it's funny when sometimes people come to their first mastermind, the stage will be theirs to stand up and be like, oh man, Greg took mine. Well, no, he didn't take yours. If he pointed out an opportunity and you agree that that's an opportunity, then that means it's probably a very big opportunity in our business. So, if there's something that's been repeated, then we put, hash marks next to it and we see what are the biggest opportunities in our business. And then we start to tackle those and figure out what action can we take to resolve these issues. So it's a full brainstorming session. There's no right or wrong answer. Nobody's getting shamed for some outside of the box idea. And then we essentially collaborate together. And then we take all those notes and we take our proposed action items. And then we do a follow-up meeting with our leadership team. And we say, okay, what specifically do we want to take action on? Is this going to become a new policy? Is this going to be a new procedure or a minimum expectation? And then at that point, then it does become sort of etched in stone, which in business, nothing's ever truly etched in stone, right? It's a living, breathing organism that is constantly changing, but it at least becomes the policy for that point in time. So that way, if people miss the mastermind, they're not out of the loop of the education. But again, we create what those actions are that we're going to take, and we move forward and say, this is it. This is what we're doing from here on out. And we make changes on it. And the beautiful part of it is that we've kept notes from all of our masterminds year after year after year. And like I talked about change, sometimes a policy change that you make today, you might be changing a year or two from now in the future, because you have to adapt and change with the times and be willing to pivot and not locked into something as, well, why do we do it that way? Well, because it's always been done that way, right? How many of you have ever heard that before? Why is it that we do it this way? Oh, that's the way it's always been done. Well, that doesn't fly with us at RokrBox, right? If there's something, an idea that needs to be challenged, we're always open for that challenging, because that's where you get growth and acceleration in your organization.
Well, and clearly you have some experience in leading those sessions. One thing that I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen this as well, is when a company first starts introducing some of that, then it has a risk, if they don't have a good handle on their culture, it has a risk of becoming the town hall, right? Or where it's event session, right? So I love that you have a structure to actually follow, and one that's duplicatable, and so that you can maintain control but still have an open space. And I start with gratitude whenever I do stuff. I'm similar to starting with the win, starting with the positive, because I think it sets the tone. So I love that, man. Well, we're just out of curiosity, because I know people are gonna reach out to me after listening to this episode. Where can people get a hold of you? Like, if they want some information on one of your mastermind sessions with I think you do 2-day workshops, right? For the 5-star company culture. Is that right? So
absolutely.
Where can they find you? Where can they find out more information about your ISA business if they're curious about that? What are all the details?
Yeah, certainly. There's a lot of funnels that'll find their way back to me, but essentially our real estate inside sales assistant company is called RokrBox, and a RokrBox is an old gold mining tool used to separate sand and gravel from gold, and essentially that's what we do with real estate internet leads. And we spell a little strange. It's RokrBox. So you can go to RokrBox.com. You can shoot me an email, josh@RokrBox.com, to find out more information about how we can help you close more deals if you're a real estate agent. And then if you're just a business owner and you're like, hey, Josh, I love what you have to say. I'd love to, sort of infuse you into our business to make these core values come to life, and to create more meaning and purpose behind the work that we do. And business owner to business owner here, I mean, let's talk about the freedom that we're looking for in life. We got into business not because we wanted to be a slave to our daily routine. We got into business because we wanted freedom. Right.
The purpose is not to fund your month to month, is to fund that perfect life that you want. Right.
Exactly.
And the purpose is to not be in business forever. Right. I think all of us have an exit strategy.
And I've had the freedom to live in San Diego for 5 years while the business was in Texas. A few years ago, when the whole world shut down, I hopped in a motorhome and traveled the country with my wife and my daughter. And I had the freedom to do that because we had a really strong company culture in place that made sure that the wheels stayed on the bus, and not just stayed on the bus, but that things were improving even without my presence. And so if you're looking for more freedom and more profits, company culture is the foundation, right? That's where you build your empire off of, is those core values, is that meaning and that purpose behind the work that you do. And if you want to learn more about that, just check out our website, 5starcompanyculture.com. You can spell it out or you can use the number. Either way, it'll redirect you to the same site. And then again, you can email me there, josh@5starcompanyculture.com, to learn about our workshops or even some private consulting that we make available.
Awesome. Well, Thank you for the conversation, man. It's been awesome. I love your focus on culture. It's clear in just chatting with you that you have a passion for your people, right? And for me, I know that if you don't really focus on your company culture, it'll be there whether you focus on it or not, right? And so, do you want to be the author of that? And actually make sure it's pointing your business in the right direction, or do you want it to be created outside of what your vision is, and deal with whatever the result is, right? So I know that I can relate to that, and I know that what you guys provide is a fantastic solution for business owners in multiple industries. So really appreciate you being a guest on the show.
Yeah, you said it best. I mean, company culture exists. The question you have to ask yourself is, are you making a positive impact on it?
100%. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the conversation, man. And I'm excited to chat more offline, but we'll sign off. And it's been a fantastic conversation. I appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thanks again for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.